Those are weird looking clouds there on the eastern sky. Look how low they are. And then we're going to scan on over here to the northeastern sky and look at those there. See how low they are? Very suspicious looking. That's an interesting sky. Look at that loose dog. He's not on a leash. I'm out for my morning walk, and this guy's walking his dog without a leash. Arrest the Jesuit. No leash. I just came back from my walk, and let me tell you, those Jesuits are really using brain control on me. First of all, they're attacking my sleep. They've been doing this. They're on a rampage. I'm going to have to do like what I did a year ago, go to bed earlier and have a definite regular bedtime. And like I had a nightmare 2 days ago, but let me read you a letter that I wrote to my men on August the 14th. Dear men, just came back from Home Depot. I hate driving because as soon as I go out the door, the Jesuits all jump on me. When I got to my car, I turned it on and wrote down the mileage. That's because we determined that I need to drive my car more because the battery is about to die because I'm not driving the car enough. Right then, and they told me how many more miles I need to, the Church of Gale mechanic told me how many more miles I need to drive that car before my next oil change. So I wanted to write down the mileage. Right then, a plumbing vehicle pulled up beside my car in the spot next to me. It was a long vehicle. So when I backed out of my spot, I had to go back and forth several times to back out, and the power steering on this car is stiff. The Jesuits are targeting me left and right. The car started okay, but I definitely need to drive it at least once a week. When I got to Home Depot and I dropped off my bulbs to be recycled, there seemed to be only one exit out, and every car was headed in that direction. Funny, because Home Depot is not like Walmart and doesn't get that much business compared to them. I had to wait in a long line at the light to go back onto the road that would take me back to my home. And then when I pulled onto the road, other cars were coming onto the road from other directions. More than usual. It was definitely, you could tell they were Jesuits. This is why I hate driving, because Jesuits target me on the road and put their drivers all around me. And one of the tricks is to have a pedestrian just pop right in front of my car too. They've been doing this for years, just like the pedestrian just come like out of nowhere. So I'm a very defensive driver. When I got back to my apartment complex, the plumbing vehicle was still there, and some overweight guy who looked like a Jesuit was standing on the sidewalk about 10 feet in front of my apartment calling, "Dexter, Dexter, are you there?" I could tell from viewing him that if he wouldn't move, I'd be forced to walk within 1 foot of him to get to my apartment, and that's exactly what happened. He was standing right where the way my apartment is situated, there was no way I could avoid him. He was right in the spot which is the only way to get into my apartment. Yesterday, as I was walking to cross the street on the way back from my walk inside, it's a fairly busy street, and I've been going this route for years. The street looked clear except for some cars far down the road, so I jogged across the street to be safe. Good thing I did, because I suddenly saw a car headed right towards me as I crossed, and it was speeding. I could have swore it was trying, and it was aimed. It was in one lane, and it swerved over to another lane to get in the lane I was in, like it was trying to hit me. I mean, I think that was a Jesuit attempting vehicular homicide. I mean, it seemed like it came out of nowhere. You really need to get on these Jesuits and give them all public executions on Gabriel Chana Fox News. And I did take the car out on the 14th because I wanted to really warm the car up. But judging by all the Jesuits who harass me when I drive and go out, I think I may need to wait at least 5 days before I go out again. That's why I hate to drive. There is a walking trail near me that I think is safe, but the trails are somewhat narrow, and I hate bumping into Jesuits. For my next car trip because I need to drive the car more. I think I may just do a joy ride, but you all got to do something about these Jesuits. As soon as I go out the door, they all jump on me. And then here's something else I said. Boy, the Jesuits have sure been busy lately. I forgot to mention that on my way back, while on my walk yesterday, I saw a car parked in the parking lot of a strip mall that I walk by every day. It had its trunk open with a huge black garbage bag protruding out of the back of the trunk. One of its rear windows was covered with a plastic bag because the window was broken. I also saw the same car yesterday when I walked in the exact same spot. By the way, when I went for my walk this morning, and today's the 16th, that car was still there. This time, but on the 14th, I noticed a man sleeping in the car in the driver's seat with his legs partially out the driver's side window. The car stunk like a sewer when I walked by it. It smelled like rotten human feces as I passed by and got a whiff of it. By the way, this is the first I've been at this apartment complex since 2004, and this is the first time I've ever had to deal with something like this. I think it has something to do with with Loree McBride's pandemic, her plandemic. I said, this is a sanitary issue. Also, this guy, I said, this, if it is a homeless person, they need to be treated according to my laws for the homeless, assuming he's not a Jesuit. Funny thing is, I think that I saw this car about a month ago, parked right here in my apartment complex, because I recognized the rear window that was covered with a bag, because I remember the bag over the rear window. I'm wondering if he lost his job because of COVID-19 and our apartment manager kicked him out and now he's homeless. Then I had a nightmare that awakened me where I dreamed that I was in a house and I was moving and I had to move really quick because a hurricane was coming and I was getting ready for it by moving from one house to another. It was a nightmare actually, because the winds were starting to howl outside the window. And I remember I was rushing to get out of the house because the house was situated right on the beach. Though I'd never have a house on the beach. So that was a strange dream. So I had to get out of it and go inland, and the winds were already howling. So actually, if that was a real life scenario and not a dream, it would have been better for me just to stay put at the rate I was going. But then the storm surge was coming. I remember looking out the window and seeing the water coming up really high. Actually, maybe it would have been better to leave, but I probably would have got stuck in my car if that was a real hurricane. But I don't know. But I saw it was right on the beach and there was like a pier in the dream and the waters were getting higher and higher and higher. Anybody who knows anything about hurricanes knows you do not want to be on a beach when a hurricane's about to hit, especially because of storm surge. And I could see the water getting higher and higher. It was so horrible. I ended up waking up. You know how a real bad nightmare will do that to you. It was a strange dream. So I'm saying, if you all are building a house for me here in Florida, make it as hurricane proof as possible. I don't know if Loree sent that dream or Jesus did as a warning, but make sure it's not on the beach. I don't want to, if it's in Florida, I don't want a house on an island or on a beach, because you always have to evacuate when a hurricane comes if you live in that area. So make it as hurricane proof as possible, guys. I do need to go to bed earlier though, and that was my goal for that day. I'm getting better, but on tonight, my goal is to get to bed even earlier. And I did do what happened, I went to bed at around 3 last night and I woke up at around 9. The Jesuits I don't have any trouble falling asleep, but the Jesuits are awakening me early. And so the only way I can beat this is I'm going to have to go back to being a morning person, not a night person. Those Jesuits are driving me crazy with their bombs too. This is nothing new, but I've had loose bowels the whole month. Can't wait till we defeat them once and for all. And then I thanked Brent for the brain-to-brain lovemaking. He loves doing that for me. Actually, my men have contacted me several times this month, and they gave me advice about what to do about my car. And I just said, you men are such a blessing, but those Jesuits just won't go away. You can't ignore them. They won't let you. They're just crazy. They're causing all sorts of problems. Like with when I went to see my psychiatrist a couple weeks ago, his office called me to say that they couldn't get money for some of their payments because the insurance wasn't the insurance messed up on how they had me listed and all this stuff, so I had to go fix that. Today on my walk, as you'll notice, there were two dogs, two Jesuits walking dogs without a leash. Usually I run into just one Jesuit. If I do run into a Jesuit walking their dog without a leash, it's usually just one. I ran into two today. Two. And another favorite of the Jesuits yesterday was my laundry day. It seems to me that Loree McBride is attacking my ability to do the Gale commandments. She's trying to make it very unpleasant for me to do the Gale commandments. And so she's really attacking me. Like as soon as I go out the door, if I'm going to do laundry, which is a Gale commandment, or go for my walk, she makes sure to plant Jesuits in my path to harass me. And yesterday, when I was doing my laundry, it was raining. In between the rain and the laundry room in my apartment complex, it doesn't do a good job of the laundry. The dryer is terrible. And because I wash my comforter every 2 weeks, because Jesus said to do laundry at least once a week, and he said that includes your bedding, Gail. I guess because of all the bombs Loree's dropping over my head, I got to wash my sheets regularly, or else all the allergens in the bedding is going to cause me to have sinus congestion when I sleep, which is a problem I deal with all the time when I sleep. I use Breathe Right nasal strips. And because of her bombs, she's always dropping bombs. So when I went down to do my laundry, I mean, it was like the Jesuits, these young people, most of the Jesuits that I'm running into are young people, Jesuit young people. Loree gets a lot of young people because they lack the wisdom and maturity that you get from living, and they usually don't, and they're stupid enough to follow her. She gets older people too, and usually those are clones, but let me just tell you this. When you see an older person following Loree McBride, it's either because they've been foolish their whole life and they're just an old fool, or they're a clone. Now, if they're a clone, they're actually a young person, even if they look old, like the Brent Spiner clone. I don't think he's older than 3 years old at the most. He's probably not even a year old. Oh, just ignore that stupid phone. Trump is always trying to get me to give him money. Why would I want to give him money? He's got more money than I've got, and plus that would be a violation of the Gale commandments. So I don't do it. Spend money only on food and bills. But these Jesuits, they are just, she can't attract a mature, balanced person as a follower. So I would say 80% of the Jesuits that follow Loree McBride are foolish young people who haven't had experience with life, and they're very immature, and they're very shallow, and they're very greedy, and they have no wisdom, the way the Bible defines wisdom in the book of Proverbs. And so here I was going to do my laundry, and a group of about 3 young people, they looked like they were in their 20s, early 20s, came by, and they were timed with perfection timing to have to take the exact same route that I had to take to do my laundry. So here I am walking and I was in between rainstorms. I didn't feel like waiting and getting soaked because I can't, in a way, I'm glad to have my own house. I think you guys are building me a house. It'd be wonderful to have my own laundry room so I don't have to go outside to do the laundry and have to walk to another building where I risk getting rained on. It's been raining a lot lately. So here they are, all 3 of them, perfection timing. Loree McBride's got some sort of programming where she can time her agents to bump into me with precision timing. And this has been happening a lot lately. It's too much to be a coincidence. And it's not like I live in New York City. And I was forced to walk right in the middle of the group because they were headed right where my laundry room was. And I just thought, wow, it's like you guys were planned to be here. And they go, oh, excuse me. And then they had to go the exact same route that I had to go to the laundry room. And then I had to get by them so I could go up the stairs to my laundry room. And I said, excuse me. And it's like, they were, oh man, I bet Loree's paying these people. You know what she does with these agents? She pays them. She says, if you will harass Gail, I will give you a lot of money. And usually what happens, this has happened to me before. This happens to me a lot. Brent says these people are so stupid. They believe all the lies Loree tells them. Loree goes up to these people and she says, if you go harass Gail, I'll give you a big bonus. Well, what usually ends up happening is if we find out they're a Jesuit, they get a public execution on Gabriel Chana Fox News. The thing is, they believe Loree. She's just a crazy lady. And if you go out and harass her, nothing's going to happen to you, and I'll give you some money. Let's have some fun. She's doing this because she knows that she's trying to make it unpleasant for me to do the Gail commandments. She's hoping that I'll see these people and she's terrible. So and then today when I went on my walk, she wasn't expecting me to go for a morning walk. That's because I wasn't expecting to go for a morning walk either. But she woke me up early with her stupid brain control. So I went out for a walk and I saw one lady with a dog. And I've seen her before. And sometimes she'll walk the dog with a leash and sometimes she won't. It's this big white husky. It looks like a husky. And she walks the dog loose without a leash. In Brevard County, that's against the law. But I guess because of COVID and the police not doing their job and stuff, the Jesuits aren't afraid of getting arrested for breaking the law anymore. So, and I don't know. I've seen her over and over again. So this one, maybe Loree's got about 10 clones of this person. So even if they've been, even if my men have dealt with them, I mean, I've seen about 10 clones of this person. You might say, yes, that's awful mean that your men do public executions of Jesuits on. Well, you got to look at it this way. Loree McBride is so evil. Anyone who would follow her deserves the death penalty. Let me tell you how bad this woman is. Okay? Let me tell you how bad this woman is. First of all, she was created in a cloning lab. Her purpose they created her because I have King David and Catherine the Great genes and I've been targeted since my birth. I almost died the first month I was born. They kind of left me alone, but not completely. They've never completely left me alone. Like the Bible college I went to, Baptist University of America in the 1920s, because Jesus told me this is true. He said, because you went there, Gail, that's the reason they went bankrupt. It was a new school when I went there. It wasn't like Bob Jones University or Tennessee Temple, which are other Christian universities in the same denomination. So, because I went there, the Jesuits made that school go bankrupt. That's what Jesus said. So I've been targeted since my birth. That would have been the 1980s. To make a long story short, when I started writing Brent Spiner, the Jesuits said, oh no, we can't have the King David woman having this Star Trek star fall in love with her. We're going to take care of this problem. So they created Brannon Braga, even boasted about this, and I'll have a post to that underneath this video. He was one of the Jesuits that genetically engineered Loree McBride in a cloning lab. So he was a writer at Star Trek, and I always noticed that at that time I just started writing and I had submitted my first teleplay, and I noticed when he would write episodes on Star Trek The Next Generation that were digs at me. I mean, I could tell. And I noticed this even before I even knew the Jesuits were onto me. I never figured out the Jesuits were onto me until December 1999, when Jesus told me my enemy was the Roman Catholic Church. But later, when Zach Knight started attacking us, this was when he was bad, they actually got really brazen and they started a website called orderofthejesuits.com. And I'm going to have a link to all their pages. And they started they were so sure they had it in the bag. They were even boasting online about what all their agents were doing. Well, they've taken that site down, but I have screenshots of it. And they were about 80% accurate in what they said in there too. I mean, Jesuits get like this every now and then. They're so sure of themselves. They know they got a ton of money. You got to understand the Jesuit order has been in existence since the 1500s. And Loyola, the founder, was a Satan worshiper. And he constructed the whole Jesuit order around Satan worship. And so by the time they came into their whole goal for creation, you got to understand the Roman Catholic Church um, is based on Babylonian mystery religion worship, which is all Satan worship. This is not to say that every Roman Catholic is a Satan worshiper, but your church, Catholics, was founded on devil worship. This whole idea of worshiping Mary and all that stuff, it kind of evolved in strange ways, and there are going to be Roman Catholics in heaven. I'm not saying they're all going to heaven, but the institution in itself was founded on devil worship. And Satan did that because he wanted to corrupt the true Christian church, which was based on Bible teaching. And he started basically, the Roman Catholic Church is one of the babies of Babylon the Great, described in Revelation 17 and 18. And to make a long story short, they developed a military branch, which is what you can read about in The Secret History of the Jesuits by Edmund Paris, a writer they murdered, by the way. And the military or the militia of the Catholic Church was the Jesuit order. The Roman Catholic Church allowed the Jesuits to exist to make up for the damage they got because of Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation. And their goal was to destroy the Protestant Reformation and to have a one world government under Catholic rule. And the Jesuits were supposed to help them accomplish that. So the Jesuit history has been to infiltrate countries, cause anarchy, split the country, take it over, and make the Roman Catholic Church the supreme religion. They've kind of evolved since then. And they've learned that one of the best ways to take over a country is for the Jesuits to be like a chameleon, to not be what they say they are publicly. So what they say they are publicly is a front, and what they really do behind the scenes is the reason Loree McBride was created. Clones have been in existence for a long time. In fact, Jesus told me that Catherine the Great had a clone. And that's the reason that she was accused of making love with horses. That was the Catherine the Great clone who did that. And I was shocked when Jesus told me that Catherine the Great had a clone. I said, Jesus, they had cloning technology back then? And then Terrance Jenkins said, well, the UFOs, they would know how to make clones. And that's true. The Jesuits got their cloning technology from the UFOs. The UFOs are the fallen angels. So Loree McBride was created with the help of Brannon Braga. Brannon Braga, Star Trek writer and an engineer, helped to create, a bioengineer, helped to create Loree McBride. The sole purpose for her creation was to break up the budding romance that was happening between me and Brent Spiner. So they created a woman who has the physical strength of a man, enabling the woman to rape a man. And Brent Spiner was in the green room in between shoots, right in the middle of a fistful of datas. And Loree McBride at that time pretended like she was a cook. Paramount Studios, their executives were also Jesuits, and they were in on this. So Brent was doomed. He had to work at Paramount. That was his job. That's how he made his living. And they attacked him right at work. They sicked Loree McBride onto him in between breaks, and Patrick Stewart gave Brent a beer, and Loree McBride just happened to be there, and she spiked the beer with brain control drugs beforehand. Apparently Patrick didn't know this. And so Brent drank the beer, and he fell under the influence of the brain control drugs, and that enabled Loree McBride to go in and make love to him while he thought that he actually had a vision where he saw me walking into the room. At this time, he was crazy about me. He was dreaming about making love to me 24/7. He told me his hormones were in full swing. So when he thought that I had walked into the room in this dream because he was under Loree's brain control, he made love to me passionately. And then when the brain control wore off and he started feeling sick to his stomach because he realized he realized he had made love to Loree McBride. I think he threw up at that point, and he thought that would be it. And she laughed and laughed, and she thought it was so funny. And but that wasn't it. She kept finding, she ended up spiking his water fountain. She would get his food in the commissary. He would fall under her brain control for a period of about 3 weeks, the whole time he was filming A Fistful of Datas. Well, it got so bad that LeVar, he wouldn't tell anyone except LeVar what was going on. LeVar actually killed Loree McBride and put her in a dumpster, and they burned her up. And then Brett was so relieved, he thought it was all over. And he ended up going on the Joan Rivers show about a month later, 1992. And he was so happy. And I noticed he gave me 3 weeks of silence in September, which was my birthday. So I thought I was really upset because he'd never done that to me. But I could tell he was crazy about me. And to make a long story short, Loree McBride was created to break up the relationship between me and Brent Spiner. And, if that wasn't bad enough, I don't know when the Brent Spiner clone was created, but neither Brent or I even knew they had cloning technology until, I think Brent knew about it before I did, but I didn't know about cloning technology till about 2006. It took me a while to figure it out. When I found out about Loree McBride, the only thing I thought about her is she's a Vatican agent. But to make a long story short, they killed her, but they created a clone of her, and she showed up around December, or maybe around Christmas 1992. And then she started harassing Brent again. She would follow him to his home and stalk him. She would get in his home, even though he would lock his doors, and he didn't know how she got in his house. And it's like he even sold one house that he had that was in, I can't remember, I think it was in Hollywood Hills, and he moved to another place. But she always ended up finding him. Within 1 month after he moved to a new location, she'd always find him, and she'd always end up getting in his house. Locking the doors. See, we didn't know how advanced the Roman Catholic technology is, but they get it from the UFOs. They were able to use Star Trek like transporter technology, just beam her right into his house. So it didn't matter if he locked the door. In fact, Zach Knight actually got into my apartment several times using Star Trek like transporter technology. And they also have invisibility shields that they can use if they want to transport and not be seen. So these Jesuits with their UFO technology, man, we're up against a lot. Okay, let me tell you how evil this woman is. Okay, when my Gale Shield started coming to power, the Jesuits weren't expecting this. This was maybe like a Jesus surprise on them. They didn't know that I would get a Gale Shield from doing the Gale Commandments, but now they found some ways to deal with it. But what's really, really bad is when miraculously, because of my Gale Shield, we put the Jesuits in a very bad position, and Angelina Ballerina lied to Zach Knight and tried to kill his true love, Rule 13, and he was stranded in a semen bubble out in deep space after their whole space fleet had been destroyed by my Gale Shield. And I realized then this was my opportunity to win him to Jesus, because I knew he loved Rule 13. And I explained to him, he thought Rule 13 had died because Angelina lied to him and said that Rule 13 was dead and that she loved him and that she wanted to be with him and all this. He was so upset when he thought Rule 13 died. He didn't want to be Antichrist anymore. I sensed that. So I talked to him brain to brain because I knew I could, because he always tried to make brain to brain love to me. And, like pretending he was Jesus and everything. I said, hey, Zach Knight, I've got news for you. Rule 13 is alive. Angelina Ballerina knocked her in the head, and she thought she killed her, and then she put her in a space pod. The space pod went into the semen bubble, ricocheted off. My men were about to destroy the pod because it was coming at them, but they noticed Rule 13 was in it, so they brought her on board, and she's in sick bay at Church of Gale. And she's alive, and Angelina lied to you. And I said, Zach Knight, don't you want to quit serving Satan? I mean, at that time, he had Antichrist powers. He was Satan's I said, don't you really? And you know what? It was really funny. He said, yeah, he said, I'm really upset, Gail. He said, I don't even care about being Antichrist anymore. When I thought Rule 13 was dead, he said, I don't even want to, it's like I don't care anymore. And I said, you need Jesus, Zach Knight. You need Jesus. And I led him to the Lord. And he's been with us ever since. The bad news is Angelina Ballerina took his place and she got his Antichrist power. Satan decided to make her the new Antichrist. And Loree McBride sided with Angelina Ballerina. The bad news is we're dealing, folks, with an Antichrist. And Loree McBride knows she's a lying fake. And she knows she's got Antichrist powers, or she did. And what she did, her number one goal is to destroy me, because she thinks by destroying me that she can take over the world for Satan. And I got to say, she's done a pretty good job. She's got all the men on my marriage list, Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, Brent Spiner, had been replaced with clones, and they've totally taken over all of the online presence for Matthew McConaughey. So basically, if you go to Facebook or Twitter or YouTube and you're watching a video that's been made after 2017, I'd say maybe after 2018, because it's gotten worse. Matthew and Gerard did manage to get a few appearances of themselves via their online presence. But I would say within the past year, Loree McBride has totally taken over the online presence of all the men on my marriage list, with the possible exception of Vladimir Putin, who I think pretty much has control over his own online presence, but I'm not sure. I think it's a mix with him. I noticed that there was a Tulsi Gabbard clone at Tulsi Gabbard's Twitter and online presence. So I do believe, I mentioned who's in my cabinet as U.S. president. It appears to me that Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, that both of their online presences may have been taken over with their clones. So it's gotten to the point where the only reliable news source is Gabriel Chana, Fox News 00 on cable. And it's really what's really disgusting about Loree McBride is she is so determined to destroy me. She's willing to destroy the whole world and kill everybody on the planet if that's what she has to do to take me out. And I don't want to hear any crap from you Jesuits about me clearing my throat when I make a video. I have to do this because of the bombs that are over my head. And I wouldn't be able to make a video at all if I had to worry about being so Jesuit proper. Yeah. It's like, oh, would you not clear your throat when you make a video? It's gross. Well, Jesuits, quit dropping those bombs over my head. That's disgusting. Let me tell you something, folks. This COVID-19 pandemic is actually, they're lying to you. When I went to see my psychiatrist several days ago, he told me, he said, what happens to these people when they get a COVID-19 infection is it hits their guts first, usually. They get gastrointestinal symptoms. And in the back of my mind, I didn't say this to him, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how interesting. Gastrointestinal symptoms from a it's funny how we never hear about it in the news. We hear about the upper respiratory where you get pneumonia. You know why they're getting gastrointestinal symptoms with diarrhea and all that stuff? They're getting it because it's a mixed infection. You see, the reason people are getting this, let me give it the right name. It's the Candida auris virus mixed infection. Loree has been dropping bombs because she's been dropping so many bombs over me, and she's trying to cover her butt and trying to make it look like she's not doing this. I mean, it's been really, really bad. Like I said, I've had diarrhea all month from the bombs over my head. Or soft stool, I would say, not full blown. It's not bad. It's like a soft stool, which I don't like. Because my intestines feel like they're burning from the Candida auris, breathing in the germs. But I asked my psychiatrist about the COVID-19. I said, you know, I said, I said, do you think you've caught it? And he laughed. He said, I think I've caught it several times. He said, it's not as bad as what they say in the news. It's, but he said, they're really overblowing this whole thing. And I was thinking, let me tell you why Loree McBride is created this pandemic and why she's lying to everybody about it. Okay. The news media, apparently they're all making a bunch of money from this together. So that's why they're lying to us all. The reason she did this is because she decided she's going to bomb the hell out of me with her germ bombs, but to cover it up and make it look like she's not doing this, she's doing it to the whole world now. So if I say that she's targeting me, she can say, oh no, she's crazy. I'm not doing that. Yeah, I've already shown you all the weird looking clouds and the symptoms that I get. I know my body. This is from the germs over she's dropping over my head. She decided, this woman is so evil. She decided she's so desperate to take me out. She's willing to kill everybody on the planet who won't be a Loree McBride Jesuit. So she started dropping these germ bombs worldwide and getting everybody sick. She says, what am I going to do? She says, I got this whole thing planned out. I'm going to say that they're getting sick from COVID-19. So she got her agents in China and she said, create a germ that I can use to blame for all the germ bombs that I'm dropping and making everybody sick, because everybody's going to get sick. And if I don't come up with something to cover up what I'm doing, then they're going to blame it on me and my germ bombs. So we got to come up with some sort of pandemic. Yeah, we're gonna create a germ and blame all the illnesses people are getting from my germ bombs on COVID. So that's what she's done, folks. Yes. You might say, and she said, even better, I'm going to get some of them all riled up and I'm going to get them in trouble and take away their First Amendment and their Fourth Amendment, come up with ways to do search and seizure illegally. We're going to use this germ bomb to get control over everybody. But we're going to blame it on COVID, and we're not going to tell the truth that they actually have a mixed infection, because actually they're not getting sick person to person. I just have to lie and make that up so that I can get everybody arrested when they don't wear masks and when they don't socially distance and when they don't follow my crazy hand washing rules and all this other stuff. Come on, folks. Everybody's getting this from the germ bomb she's dropping over your head. You could wash your hands to death. You could wear a mask everywhere you go. You could socially distance. That's not going to stop you from getting sick as long as you can breathe air. Unless you want to wear a mask like what they wear, like when you deal with Ebola. That would be pretty hard to go to sleep in. That might work, because then you wouldn't be breathing in the germ bombs, the stuff falling down from the germ bombs. This pandemic is not caused mainly by person-to-person contact. I mean, I'm not saying you can't get it that way, but that's not the number one means of transmission. The number one means of transmission are the germ bombs she's dropping over your head. But she says, oh, goody, I got everybody to fall for my lie. And they don't realize that no matter what they do, they're going to get sick, because if I drop a germ bomb over their head. But see, I'm blaming it on person-to-person transmission. So they're all doing all this. I got them all hyped up and worried, and they're so worried about getting sick. And I'm dropping bombs like hell all over the world. But I can do it now and not get blamed for it, because everybody thinks they're getting sick person to person. And they don't realize it's because I'm dropping all these bombs over them. And then, of course, I'm also using the real killer, which is Candida auris, 60% mortality rate for those who are not on Seroquel. And everybody thinks Seroquel is only good for mental illness. And I got everybody to believe Gail's crazy. Okay, folks? I wanted to give you a little dramatic interpretation of what's going on here. That Loree McBride is super evil. And any of you who follow her deserve the death penalty. When she meets Jesus Christ at the great white throne judgment, I'm not sure if she's going to be Antichrist or not, and I'm not sure if the Antichrist goes to the great white throne judgment. I know the Antichrist and false prophet go to the lake of fire even before Satan, their leader. But let's say she does go to the great white. She's going to be judged one way or another. You know how many people I think this woman has killed just in her attempt to take me out? Probably at least 1 billion. How many people has she made sick? Billions. My God, she could win the Nobel Prize for murder. This woman, because she has the UFO technology, because she gets money from George Soros, who's a Jesuit supporter, by the way, and her financiers in the Democratic Party. She's got some in the Republican Party, too. Neither party's innocent. The deep state is in both parties. The deep state is Loree McBride, folks. It's Loree McBride. So she's got everybody all hyped up about this germ. You know what? Loree McBride could end the pandemic tomorrow if she quit dropping her bombs. And she knows it, too. She goes, "Oh, you're lying. You're crazy. I got into Brent Spiner's life. Legitimate. You're crazy. You're making the whole thing up." No, Loree McBride. You know I'm not crazy. Why else would you be spending billions of dollars to bomb the hell out of the whole planet? I just can't believe how much power and influence this woman has. She's taken over Hollywood. The real Matthew McConaughey, the real Brent Spiner, the real Gerard Butler, I think, have had their careers ruined by this woman because their clones have taken over their Hollywood jobs, and these clones can't act worth a flip. However, when Loree McBride's in charge of Hollywood, you don't need talent to make it in Hollywood. Nowadays, talent doesn't cut it. You could be the most talented person on earth, but if you're not a Loree McBride Jesuit, you won't get anywhere in Hollywood nowadays. But if you're a dum-dum with an IQ of about 80, but you do everything your leader Loree tells you to do, she'll pay you real good. She'll pay you real good. Actually, I think the Brent Spiner clone's got an IQ higher than 80. He's probably about as smart as Brent, and that's part of the problem. He uses his brains for evil. But I don't think, no, I take that back. I don't think he's as smart as Brent. No, he's probably half as smart as Brent. No, he might be. I'm not saying these clones are all stupid, but they don't have emotional intelligence. And you need emotional intelligence to be a good actor. And because they don't have emotional IQ, he's not a very good actor. But anyways, the clone, I mean, the real Brent's great. So, Loree McBride is really frustrated that she hasn't killed me yet because I'm in her way. She's pretty much got a lot of people. She's got Twitter and Facebook and YouTube believing her lies that she's had a legit relationship with Brent Spiner. Actually, the Brent Spiner clones have been killed several times and they've been executed, but it's a piece of cake for her to make another clone within a month, or probably even sooner. And then she grows them really fast using accelerated growth hormones. And that's why the average clone out there at the most is not older than a couple years. Some of them might only be a month old. That explains why their emotional IQ is so low. It usually takes some time to develop emotional IQ. It takes some maturity. And the Jesuit clones don't have that. They're like a bunch of spoiled brat sociopaths, Loree McBride is used to having money given to her on a silver platter. She was created to be Brent Spiner's wife with the goal to make sure that he never married me. She succeeded thus far, but she has not succeeded in getting him to stop loving me. He's been willing to die for me ever since he fell in love with me in 1991. In fact, that was the main reason he allowed her into his life, because she said, "If you don't let me be your public girlfriend, I'm going to kill Gail. You better do what I say." So anyway, she's got the whole, like I said, Loree McBride could end COVID-19 tomorrow. All she would have to do is stop dropping her bombs and tell all her agents, I'm not going to pay you anymore to play my lying game. If Loree McBride told all her Democrat leaders and told all the people that follow her, I've decided I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to make everybody sick. I'm going to quit dropping my germ bombs. I'm going to quit harassing Gail. She could end the pandemic tomorrow. But no, she doesn't want to do that. She is used to having money given to her on a silver platter. Even she steals all the money. All her money is stolen. She gets it from Soros, who's a what I'd call a first-class money launderer, and she gets it from all these and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is Loree McBride cuck. Loree's her boss. Loree's her boss. Loree McBride has totally taken over the Democratic Party. She could end this all tomorrow. She could say, I'm not playing this game anymore. I've decided to be right with Jesus. I'm going to quit making everybody sick, and I'm going to end. She's not going to end it because she wants to destroy Trump, because believe it, even though I don't like everything Trump has done, Trump's willing to die for me. So he almost did while he was, not going along with Melania, his wife. We had to take Melania out because she was trying to kill me. So the main thing is the war is between me and Loree McBride. Between me and Loree McBride. And Loree McBride already made a clone of Tulsi Gabbard. I actually made an executive order where I said I felt like this contact tracing business needs to stop because it's violating the Fourth Amendment. Like I said, Loree McBride doesn't give a flip about the First or the Fourth Amendment. Like I told you, she could end this tomorrow. She could stop dropping her bombs. She could stop paying all her agents in the Democratic Party and the news media. They're all lying for her. And it's funny how the real pandemic is a mixed infection. It's Candida auris and COVID. It's both. And I got a picture of Tulsi Gabbard up because the Tulsi Gabbard clone, because I made an executive order to ban contact tracing because I feel that's violating the Fourth Amendment. Loree McBride, Tulsi Gabbard's my VP, and she had Tulsi Gabbard give an hours-long spiel about how we need more contact tracing in Hawaii, and I could tell it was the clone. It was the clone. You might say, but Tulsi has always been for contact tracing. Well, she was at the beginning, but I do believe that she agrees with me now that that's overkill and that it's not really effective. I don't think Tulsi knew at the beginning that the main means of catching this thing is from the germ bombs. It's not from person to person. So you could contact trace to death and it's not going to make a lick of difference as long as people are breathing in the germs from the germ bombs. Like I said, people, contact tracing is not the answer. Testing is not the answer. The answer is Loree needs to stop dropping the germ bombs. People are getting sick from the germ bombs. That's the number one means of transmission. I'm not saying you can't get it person to person, but the number one means, I would say 80% of the people that are dying, maybe 95% of the people that are dying from COVID have a mixed infection of yeast and COVID. It is the yeast that is killing them. The yeast. All the death certificates should not say COVID. They should say Candida auris. Candida auris is a super germ. That's what's killing them. They've been misdiagnosed. They're dying from Candida auris. They're probably not on Seroquel, so they're breathing in the germs from the germ bombs. Candida auris has a 60% mortality rate if you're not on Seroquel. And if it goes systemic, and it has a tendency to go systemic. Systemic means you get a whole body infection. I mean, I've had a systemic infection forever. I'm going to have to be on Seroquel for life because of what the Jesuits did to me. But like I'm saying, I'm sick of these Jesuits. I'm sick of their germ bombs. I'm sick of being harassed when I go out shopping and when I go on my walk. And these people deserve the death penalty. Because if not just for the germ bombs alone, that's enough. But they've done more than that. That bomb that was dropped in Lebanon, I'm certain that was Loree McBride. She's dropping bombs everywhere. All the fires all over the world. Loree McBride's a pyromaniac. She almost had burned down my house in 1998. She loves fire. She's a fire person. So that's why we're having all these weird fires all over the world. Loree McBride starts, when we were in the courtroom with her in 2011, she got a flamethrower and she threw it out in the courtroom and she killed people in the courtroom. Yeah, I'm going to have a link to that underneath this video too. That was the real Loree McBride. Yeah, she's crazy, man. Satan meets with her at least once a week too. So she's getting the benefit of Satan's, being with Satan. She is the biggest problem this world has. Like I said, we could end she doesn't care if everybody goes on the street, if they all go homeless, as long as she's willing to make the whole world become homeless, to kill everybody with this germ. They're dying from Candida auris, not COVID. I'm not saying they don't have COVID, but the cause of death is Candida auris. If the death certificates were honest, that's what it would say. But she's lying about everything. The world's figured out they're lying, but they haven't figured out the full extent to which she's lying. The biggest lie that we're not being told is that we're being told that everybody's dying from this virus. They're not dying from the virus. They might have the virus, and that might be one of the things they have. They're dying from Candida auris, from breathing in the germs. Like I said, she could end this pandemic tomorrow. She doesn't want to. She's going to keep bombing the hell out of everybody until she kills me. That's her goal. That's her goal. And she deserves the death penalty for that, along with anybody who follows her.